Hey everybody, today my guest is Matt Phillips. Matt is a former professional baseball player and now he coaches athletes and executives to increase their mental toughness. In this episode, Matt and I discuss having a vision for yourself, increasing your self-awareness, and changing your self-talk, and Matt explains how to incorporate all of those things in increasing your own mental toughness.
Gosh, over the last probably 6 months, to be honest, I've spent a lot of time talking about what mental toughness is not. That's where I'm finding that I start with. And, my background, I played Division I college baseball, played professionally overseas for a while. And, when I grew up playing sports, it was kind of this definition of like show no fear, never show weakness, never get down, never let your emotions get the best of you. And while it's, we try to trend towards those types of things, I've kind of redefined it and said, listen, there is going to be fear. There is going to be doubt. Your emotions are going to get the best of you. But let's, instead of looking at that as a negative, let's look at it as a positive. Let's start becoming aware of those fears and doubts and limiting beliefs and emotions that we're having. Let's sit with them, and then let's equip ourselves with the tools to move past them quicker than you ever have before. So the way I do define it, I'll come back to that kind of time frame because that's super important to how I define it. 4 elements that I talk about. The first is confidence. So how do we have that 100% self-belief, right? Proud of that person you see staring back at you in that mirror. I don't care if you're the head of a household, you're running a business, a function, it does not matter. Every area of life starts with each and every one of us, right? So confidence is that first. Focus. How do we stay focused on the right things that are going to drive our business, our life forward? How do we avoid the distractions that are all around us? Not only our smartphones, but also, getting distracted by the things that are easier instead of the ones that are hard and will really move the needle. So that's that second point, focus. Emotional control is the third, right? That's time and time again, just talk to my wife a little bit of how my emotions have gotten the best of me and former coaches and stuff like that. But how do we channel those emotions the proper way, not let the little things derail us? And then the final point is energy. So I take a very holistic approach to this, right? So how do I wake up in the morning with the most energy possible and carry through at a high level throughout the day? I mean, that's what I want. I mentioned right before we started, I've got 3 kids. Like I want to have energy to play with them, right? It takes a lot of energy to raise children and be married and do all that stuff, let alone run a business. So it's really confidence, focus, that emotional control, that energy to perform our best, and then taking those and forming habits with it, right? So coming full circle, the way also with those, right? We're going to get derailed, we're going to get off track, but as we build that mental muscle, the ones who are mentally tough or have a strong mindset, mental emotional resiliency, however you want to describe it, they recognize those emotions and fears and stuff, but instead of letting them derail you for like 5 days, as you train, as you equip yourself, becomes that 5 days becomes 5 hours, 5 minutes, 5 seconds. So all we're trying to do is close that time gap from when we get off track to getting back on. That is the definition in my mind of mental toughness.
Wow. And did you like have this innately, or was there a process that you came to figure this out and build it in yourself?
It's interesting, honestly, through a lot of reflection. I look back at my athletic career, especially. Again, I had that mentality like show no fear, show no weakness, all that stuff, and I really struggled with my confidence in baseball. I really did. I would constantly compare myself to other players and think how they're bigger, stronger, faster than me. I would just doubt my ability. I'd kind of play to the level that I thought I should be at instead of exceeding and getting to my true potential, right? And so, again, I was very blessed to play at a high level in baseball, and I don't regret anything. But as I progressed from baseball into the corporate world where I worked for a long time, as I lived overseas again, as I started this business, it's just become something that I've really taken time to reflect on and dive into as I've worked on myself, as I've gotten into my history, right, and looked at where my beliefs came from and what my beliefs even were that have made me the person I am today, and me being real with like what are my fears, right? Like what truly are they? What's driving me? And it's led me to kind of this definition and how I just approach every day.
Yeah, and how are you reflecting on that? Is this meditation? Are you journaling? Like, what works for you?
So I'm a big journal guy. I've got actually my journal sitting in the other room now, but I have learned over time that the thoughts we have in our head, the quicker you can put them down on a piece of paper, the better off you are, right? Because it becomes a data point. I talk about, ask any of my clients, I'm always talking about like, well, what do the facts tell us? What's the data, right? And so when you get that thought out of your head and look at it on paper, it just becomes real, and you can do something about it, and you can analyze it for what it is. So a lot of it is I've trained myself over time, like when I get that feeling of like anxiety, that anxiousness, something's off, right? So I know I need to look at that. And so I'll get out my journal, I'll just start writing stuff down, and I'll just let whatever flows, like flow at that moment, and just write till I'm done. Now that may take like 20 seconds, Brendan, right? Or it may take 20 minutes. I mean, who knows, right? It just depends on the moment, but writing it down, I can see it for what it is. I talk about the confidence piece that I struggled with. I discovered through this reflection, through writing, that I know exactly where my confidence issue started. And it was my freshman year of high school. So I'm like, 14 years old, 15 at that point. And I tried out for this high school baseball team. I made the freshman baseball team. And a couple of days after tryouts, and we're practicing with the team, I go, we're just at practice getting ready. I'm standing next to a teammate, and the coach's notebook is like lying wide open, right? And as good teenagers, of course we're going to look, right? Of course we're going to look. So I looked at the notebook, and it had a list of all the people who tried out. And then the ones who didn't make it were scratched out. And so we're looking down the list, and I come to my name. Next to my name is 3 question marks. And my teammate standing next to me goes, I wonder if you were supposed to actually make the team. So that one situation planted the seed of doubt in me, where I would always kind of ask subconsciously, right? Because this is where these beliefs lie. Subconsciously, like, do I belong? Am I good enough? Am I worthy to be here, or should it be someone else? And, those types of things that carried through in baseball, even though I was able to push through a lot of that and work through a lot of that, it's gone into, these things affect marriages. They affect the way you interact with kids, where you ask those same questions, like, should my wife be with someone else? Am I good enough to be with her, right? And so, but it was honestly, Brendan, through that reflection that made me understand that. And then I can analyze it for, is that true? Right? Is that a fact? Is it true? What's the truth? Now, those 3 question marks, freshman year of high school, could have meant Matt should be on varsity, right? He should, right? Or what position should Matt play because he's so good at everything, right? I don't know what that meant. Maybe it meant I wasn't supposed to be on the team. It doesn't matter. Is the truth, right? And so, but it was only through that reflection that we truly get at like what are the fears and beliefs that we grew up with. And then let's see them and start changing them with the tools that I get to teach every day.
So you've got this self-awareness now. How are you helping to translate this to other people when you work with them? Because it's kind of a hard thing to spread.
It is. No, you're right. And a lot of it is, my job when I'm working with a client or I'm doing a workshop is just to be listening, right? And so I'm a big believer in quiet time. Just letting your thoughts kind of come, and whether it's in nature or in the morning or at night before you go to bed. But my job is to kind of listen for the self-talk and the words people use, because that's such a huge indicator of, where just what belief systems they have in place, right? And then it's my job to kind of take a step back and be like, well, wait a minute, why did you, choose to use those words in that situation? And let's dive into that a little bit, right? It's not over-analysis paralysis of every word that you say, but it's showing people that it's okay to pay attention to yourself and to write these things down if they want to change behaviors and get where they're not at the moment, right? Because that's what it's about. Like, we're here, I want to get over here. It's only through creating that awareness that's the first step to getting it to kind of where that potential is.
Yeah. And your own excellence, your own story of tapping into your potential, a lot of it, the foundation seems, is in athletics, pro baseball.
Yep.
How did you transition from sport then to corporate America and now to your own thing?
Yeah, the kind of shortest story I can tell about it is, I actually began my career with Ernst & Young, so one of the, at the time, Big Four public accounting firms. They're still Big Four right now. That just changes all the time. But they came to Creighton University where I played and recruited non-accounting majors to go to Notre Dame or University of Virginia to get your master's degree in accountancy. And, I knew I wasn't getting drafted in the U.S. to go to the major leagues, stuff like that. And so I decided that didn't know what I wanted to do. So I'll go to University of Virginia, get my master's and have it paid for and start my career in public accounting. So moved to Kansas City. And it's interesting because I was really excited for my career because I got to a point in baseball where I was done. I was like burnt out. I was ready for the next chapter, the next challenge, kind of that competition. And so I was just very thankful to get that opportunity. So moved to Kansas City. I worked in audit for 3 years and then moved to Zurich, Switzerland for 3 years with the firm. Did an international assignment over there and then moved back to the U.S. And I loved my time with EY. I worked for a couple other Fortune 500 companies after I returned to the U.S. in accounting and operations, and had a great time. But there was always this kind of nag that I felt, just something every day. I sat there and I knew there was something bigger for me. I knew there was something that I had to be doing that I could not achieve sitting in a cubicle or an office, right? And it just started me down this path of thinking, like, what do I want that next step to be? What do I want it to look like? Who do I want to impact? Could it be with a company? Is it my own business? And just kind of, I don't know, weighing out all the different options. And I remember I went to a leadership class at a company I was working for, and I'm watching this woman present. She did a phenomenal job. But I sat there thinking, like, I can do that. And I can do it really well. Because I just love that leadership stuff, building great teams and, just fulfilling our potential, right? And so I started formulating what do I want this to be. And, funny enough, I'm a big spiritual guy. So I just believe that kind of the universe or God or whatever people believe in or don't believe in. But sometimes in life you are kind of shoved off a cliff when it's time to go. So in my mind, being spiritual, I think God positioned this job where I was given an opportunity to move out to San Francisco. They were eliminating my position otherwise. And that was the time to kind of say, either I'm going to do this or I'm going to, kind of stay in corporate America and be a little miserable along the way. And that's what I jumped off and decided to start Pro Athlete Advantage. And 7 years later, here we are.
Yeah, so you said not going to do the San Francisco thing, going my own way, and you felt that push.
Yes, and it was this draw. I have such a passion for what I do. I really, like this morning, I run mastermind groups, so we get together once a month, and this morning was my mastermind group meeting, and I was up. Alarm went off at 3:30 this morning, and I popped up out of bed. And we meet from 6 to 9 in the morning, so I'm up at 3:30. I'm downtown at this co-working space that I use for it, and I'm brainstorming all this stuff on the board, like getting myself ready for these guys to show up. It was amazing. But I love what I do in the morning, and when you feel that pull, it's something to pay attention to as well. Not that you haven't figured it out. I could tell you lots of ups and downs along the way. But I just felt this pull that it was time to go do that and find out what was possible inside me.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'm so glad you did. It's contagious. Like, I can see your excitement when we're talking like this. Like, I feel it.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Yep.
So you got another challenge that I heard you talking about on your podcast. Are you training for an ultra marathon?
So it is done.
It's done. How did it go?
So 50K. I'll tell you right off the bat, I failed.
Okay.
I failed. But it was the greatest thing that has probably ever happened. One of the greatest things that's ever happened to me in my life. Mm-hmm. So the quick background is it was a 50K, but it was a 5K loop. Mm. And so you do it 10 times. Mm. Okay. So the same, 3.1 mile loop, whatever. And the cool thing was, or the interesting thing was, you can only start at the top of the hour. So say it takes you like 40 minutes to get around. Well, you wait 20 minutes, sit down, do whatever you want to do, and then everybody goes back out again at the top of the hour, and they release everybody at the same time. So it's a super interesting format. Supposedly it's like really huge on the East Coast or Northeast or something. I don't know, but they're trying to get it going here in Colorado. Mm-hmm. And so I did it with my good buddy Kevin, who runs a lot of these, and ex-Army guy. So he's got the mentality. The furthest I've ever run is a half marathon, and that was back in like 2005. Yeah, 2005, I think. So it's been a long time since I've run. So anyway, we're doing the loops, and the first one is pretty easy. We're back in about 40 minutes. Second one, 40 minutes. Third one, 41 minutes. Fourth one, we're cruising along. And I wish I could show you this picture, but after lap 6, I've got this picture of me laid out in the parking lot on my back, just like in this position of like, just I'm in bad shape after lap 6. And everything was fine. My lungs were fine. I was breathing fine, all that stuff, but my hips were killing me. So anyway, I went back out. So I got up, went back out for lap 7. And about halfway through lap 7, it's hard to describe, but I'm literally, my left hip is in so much pain that I'm having to walk with my left toe pointed in, just to like relieve the pain. And I'm walking at this point. Right? I can't even run at this point. And it was fascinating because everybody's passing me, right? And there's this one part in the race where you're about 100 or so yards from the finish line, and that's when you can start hearing the music, and you see everyone, and that's the first time you can really see the finish line. And I remember as I'm getting close to that, because there's a 60-minute cutoff. If you miss the 60-minute cutoff, you're done. They pull you off. They don't pull you off. Okay. They wait till you finish, right? But you can't go back out again. And from a mental perspective, when you put yourself in an uncomfortable position like that, because I had no idea what I was really getting into, it's interesting what thoughts bubble up. And my first thought was like, okay, I don't think I'm going to make the time cutoff because I'm walking at this point. I said, I don't think I'm going to make the time cutoff. And then my thought went to like, how embarrassing is it going to be for me to walk up to that finish line with everyone standing there, or everyone running, like I've missed the cutoff, now everyone's running past me, that I've missed the cutoff. How embarrassing is this going to be? Because at its core, like I have a fear of like what people think of me, right? It's not a fear of failure. It's a fear of like, what are people going to say or think, right? Something I've had to work through over time and was exposed, May 4th, just a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
And so I have this awareness of it. And so sure enough, I see the finish line. I start hearing the music, and I see that everyone is lined up at the start line. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like my fear is coming true, right? My fear is going to happen. And so I hear over the loudspeakers, like 3 minutes left for the cutoff. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually going to make it. But embarrassing. Well, I get really close to the finish line. That entire group of runners who I think are going to judge me and look down upon me, they start cheering for me as I get close and I cross the finish line.
Wow.
So amazing lesson there of like, these people knew what I was going through and they cheered me on through the pain. Amazing. So I crossed the finish line with 30 seconds left. The race director comes up and she's like, you doing all right? And I'm like, my hips are killing me. She's like, you want ice? Do you want to see the doctors? And in the meantime, Kevin he's far enough away from me. He's probably like 20 yards away, where I can't talk to him, right? I'm not standing next to him. And I look at Kevin and I tell this woman, I said, no, I'm fine. And I look at him and he points like this up the course, right? As if to ask. All he's doing is asking, like, hey, are you going to go back out? Or, like, what are you going to do? No judgment, just he's asking a question. And then I hear 3, 2, 1, and they release everybody. And so there goes everyone past me. Kevin goes past me. And I'll use the G-rated version. In my head, I go, F it. And I go back out on the course. And at this point, it was lap 8. And I knew there was no way I was going to make the cutoff. At that, and he got past this one part. It was about probably a tenth of a mile past the starting line, and you're past all the people cheering for you as you go out, right? And I can see the parking lot. And again, these mental battles that we have of my mind sitting there saying, Matt, all you have to do is climb down this ditch, climb back up, and you'll be at the car, and nobody will know that you quit. Nobody will know. And just overcoming that through self-talk, through me yelling at myself of like, you're going to finish this. I'm yelling out loud, you're going to finish this effing race. me praying. I mean, I started crying at one point. It was unreal. And so I kept going. And every probably 15 steps, I'd have to sit down, squat down, or bend over just to relieve the pressure on my hips. But I ended up going all the way around. I said, I am finishing this lap no matter how long it takes. And again, I come to this point where I see the finish line. And here comes the thought again, right? Because it's not, people think like, oh, you know, you have a strong mindset, mentally tough, like the thought's never going to come back. The thought is coming back. It's going to come back. But it's like, what are you going to do with it? And again, closing that time gap. So for me, I'm like, how embarrassing is this going to be when I get across now? And here we go. Well, by this point, I had missed the cutoff by like 15 minutes, right? So I'm walking up to the finish line, and I cross the finish line. Nobody's there. Nobody. Not one person is sitting there. And so I just walked and went to the car and took off my shoes and went and got a beer because they had keg and kind of celebrated like me pushing through my wall. So that experience, Brendan, was incredible because as I reflected, I journaled the next day for like an hour and a half just on like, what did I learn from that? And the first bullet that I put down was that I was not physically prepared for that. Because when we have these expectations of greatness, like in racing or lives or athletics or with a great marriage, the whole point comes down to like, if you don't put in the work, how do you expect to get that ultimate result that you want, right? Well, I didn't physically prepare for it enough. I thought, oh, I'll just deal with it, right? I'll mentally push through. It's a combination of physical and mental preparation will help you achieve those goals, right? But the second point that I put down was that I am a better man, husband, business person, father for having done this race because I pushed through so many walls. I pushed through the fears that I had that I didn't even know existed. I'm a better person for having done that, and I was mentally prepared for that race. So I'm so proud. I didn't finish the 9th or 10th lap. I in turn turned it into like, how do I cheer my buddy Kevin on? And after the his 9th lap, he was laid out just like me on the ground. And I didn't know if he was going to finish, but I pulled him back up and cheered him on, and he actually finished the race. So incredible experience.
Wow. It seems that we keep coming back to this idea of sort of having a narrative of yourself, the story of your life, your journey, the stories that we tell ourselves. How can people tactically use their stories, their self-talk, to be tough in tough situations?
That's a great question. So first of all, it comes back to like that word awareness, right? So a lot of the time we go through life just not even paying attention to what we're saying to ourselves, right? Or what words are coming out of our mouth. So I have people do very like simple exercises to start creating that, right? So it's literally just carrying a piece of paper around with you, and every time you say something or think something that you regret, or you're like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that or thought that, or you write it down on a piece of paper, and then you immediately change it to something positive, right? Or you ask that question of like, what can I learn from this? What can I change based on what I said or what I thought in that moment? But it's starting to write those things down. And the biggest thing is like when you're in the moment, when you're in the heat, it's get back to get to the truth, right? Get to the data and the information and like what is the truth of this at the moment, right? So like running my own business, I mean, I can't tell you throughout the day, I mean, these thoughts creep up of like, you know, I don't know, I lose a deal or something. Let's say somebody moves a meeting, right? So I had this expectation that I was going to go into this corporation, have a meeting to talk about what I do, right? Because I want to make a sale. I want to help these people in this company. And then at the last minute, they move it. Well, that's super frustrating. Super frustrating. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting at a client in the lobby with about 2 minutes before our meeting started, and the admin comes down and says, hey, we're going to have to move the meeting. I'm like, are you kidding me? Super frustrating. But over time, it's like, okay, what is my reaction going to be from this? And I immediately went to kind of anger, frustration, like everybody does. Yeah. And then this whole story that I started creating in that moment. And so when we're in that moment, we start creating that story. It's taking a pause and being like, well, wait a minute. Like, okay, me telling in that situation, well, they just don't care about what I do. It's like, okay, well, wait a minute. Let's write this down. Right? Let's think about this. He's the one who asked for the meeting. right? Because he's obviously interested about this. He's told me he's got money and budget set aside for something like this. I have no idea what came up. Maybe it was something horrible for the company that he's got to address and deal with. I don't know, right? So right then and there, it's getting back to the truth of like, listen, I know they want to do this. It's okay if they reschedule. Yeah, a little bit of an inconvenience for me, but now I have a great story to tell, right? Of how to deal with something like this. So it's completely reframing that, but getting back to like, what is the truth, right? We have these thoughts of like, I'm not good enough, like I'm not worthy to be here. So much stems from that self-belief, right? That am I enough, right? Am I enough in my own eyes? Often enough in other people's eyes, but it starts with us believing in ourselves. But it's looking at the facts of like, me as a husband and father. It's having the courage and confidence to look in the mirror and be like, I'm a good person. You know what? I have a great heart. I treat people well. I care about what I do. I'm all about integrity, like whatever it is. Everybody's different, right? But it's changing that self-talk and, knowing it's okay to be like, I'm good at this. Right? Like, you don't have to be humble. Doesn't mean show up weak. Humble means be confident, but you don't go boast about it.
Yeah, back to truth, like you were saying. I think a lot of humility is truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's super interesting. Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest thing that you see people struggle with mental toughness?
Oh, it's all consistency.
Yeah.
I think as human beings, it goes back to New Year's resolutions, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to make a change, right? And this happens at different times of the year, but this is the time, right? This is the time where I'm going to start that business, or I'm going to, lose the weight and keep it off, or I'm going to, finally go after that promotion, whatever. And we try to make this massive change in our lives. Which everyone listening, you Brendan, the stats of like how quickly people fall off, right?
Yeah.
I'm such a believer in creating momentum through the compounding effect, right? So the compounding effect finance term, like small bits of interest, reinvested, they add up to like millions of dollars, right? At least that's the goal in investing. So, but you look at that compounding effect, it's the small things that are done consistently, right? So when I talk about having a strong mindset or building yourselves up, it's like, okay, it's not like you make a decision that today I'm going to be mentally tough, right? And everything's going to change like snap of a finger. I say, no. Learn some of the tools. And if you can consistently use those on a daily basis or weekly basis, depending on the tool, you will be so far ahead of everyone else who comes gung-ho out of the gate and then fails later on, right? So for example, it's like, okay, you want to get fit. Great. Good for you, right? And what most people do is like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym like, 5 days a week, and I'm going to do like 50 push-ups and 50 sit-ups and all this stuff every day, right? And I sit there and say, well, wait a minute. And this is, again, based on like neuroscience, the way the brain works, where I spend a lot of my time talking about the power of our brain and body. Is every time, if you're consistent, your body will get that dopamine hit when you accomplish something, right? And it comes from the brain, which is with success, achievement, accomplishment, and the body craves dopamine hits. So instead of getting it from our cell phones here and social media, our smartphones, but we can get it from doing the small things consistently. So I would rather people wake up and say, okay, what if you did just 5 push-ups a day? And you did that for as long as possible. And people are like, that's ridiculous. No, it's not, because you get the dopamine hit, your brain starts to notice, you form the habit with it, and you can always increase that later on. But you will see the wins over and over and over again. So I'm a huge believer in like, do the small things consistently. And that's what makes you have that strong mindset, be resilient in the end.
Yeah, I love that. There's so much science to support that idea. There's so many stories of people. I was just reading one the other day of a woman who's a famous dancer, and her ritual was not to go and have this huge dance practice. Her ritual, she lived in New York City, was to get her butt downstairs and get in the cab to the gym. And like, as long as she did that, it didn't matter what happened after. And from there, years and years of that, she just kept getting better and better.
Yes. No, it's so true. It's that, and we all struggle with that discipline side, right? It's the discipline. And that's just having those realistic goals. Like, that's a fabulous one. Just get in the cab, and you're good to go. Because it's, I mean, people say this all the time, of like, no one's ever regretted working out.
Yeah.
Right? Just like salespeople, they've never regretted doing the cold calling. Mm-hmm. It's scary at first, but if the whole goal is like, I'm just going to call one person today. Well, one person turns into 2, 3, 4 potentially. And instead of making 50 calls in a day, why not make 5 quality calls over the week? Guarantee it'll change your performance and create that momentum in your life. Yeah, the science, and that's one thing I've discovered, even like within this business, and why I spend so much time on it, is like, we are all more powerful than we think. It's so much more powerful if we just get out of our own way and let our mind do its job, right? I interviewed Dr. Michael Brewis, who is Dr. Oz's personal sleep coach, for my podcast. I want to be Dr. Oz's mental toughness coach, by the way.
Yeah, let's get you signed up.
So, anyway, I was asking him about, like, and he's a sleep expert, right? So I was asking him about, like, okay, I'm in Denver, I want to travel to New York, but I sleep horribly when I get there. I said, how do I do this, right? And I'm thinking he's going to be like, oh, it's your sleep routine, and start going to bed earlier or later or whatever. And he goes, what I tell all my CEOs and clients is, about 2 to 3 days before you, in my case, fly to New York, start eating on their schedule. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, you start eating on their schedule. He said, first of all, you don't want to show up in New York at 9 a.m. for a 9 a.m. breakfast and be like, well, I'm not hungry, right? It's just rude. But he said, second of all, the gut, it controls so many of our hormones and neurochemicals in our brain-body connection. Like, he said, your gut will tell you when it's time to go to sleep. And I'm like, I mean, I'm on the podcast like mind blown. And my wife, she's head of nutrition for my company as well, and talks about nutrition at different companies. And as soon as I told that to her to that, she's like, yeah, that's like, oh, so. But my mind was blown. But the point being of, like, your gut brain connection, body brain, oh, it's amazing the power if you just let it do its thing.
Right. And something as simple as changing your eating schedule, I think for people to think, oh, I've got to move up my bedtime a couple hours, oh, that's going to mess up everything. But food is more malleable for most people's schedule.
Yes.
Wow.
It's so true. What a simple thing, right?
Wow. Yeah. So we're talking now about these sort of internal things and the narrative. But another thing I've heard you discuss is the importance of something a little more external, like a big why, a big driver. How do you harness that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Last month at my mastermind group, I introduced this concept that was introduced to me. I think it's ultimately a Brene Brown concept. Around, it's called paint done, or paint it done. And it's in my case, what I did, what I keep up with is I look 3 years out. And you can do like a year, 2 years, 3 years, not much further than that. But you look like 3 years out was what I did and what I did with my mastermind group, and say, okay, if you're to paint a picture, right, paint a painting of like what 3 years from now looks like, what is it? And it's to create this vision of like, okay, where you want to go. What results do you want to create? How do you want to impact? What does your personal life look like? What is your, in my case, like marriage and kids and travel and, all this stuff of like crafting, like, what does that vision look like? And what quickly starts to emerge is like, because I put metrics on it, right? I put, this is my revenue goal. And I started out with, I'm so happy and grateful that, and then fill in the blank, right? And just kind of let it flow. And I put in like, I can't believe that my revenue was X in year 1 and X in year 2, X in year 3, right? And it's opened up all these opportunities to give back to these foundations in our church and like all this stuff, right? And so that's a huge piece of it, is just a dream of like, where do you want to go? Like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, right? Anything beyond that, in my opinion, is like way too much. I think like 10 years from now, it's like, my gosh, I have to analyze like, where are my kids at? And how many are in college? And anyway, but kind of starting with that. And then ultimately it comes back to like, why do you want that vision to come true? Right. And kind of connecting with that ultimate kind of purpose and why you're doing this in the first place. It's such a grounder for me when I'm going through tough times to reconnect, especially in this business of like why I started this business in the first place. It's so huge just to ground me and be like, no, Matt, remind yourself, like, this is why you started this in the first place. This is why it's okay and why you need to push through these tough times. This is why it's so important, because I've got two drivers in my kind of two purpose statements, if you will. One is I want to, when I get to the pearly gates someday, I want to know that I fully utilize my God-given gifts and talents. And that's a gift that my father left me when he passed away about 4.5 years ago now from cancer. And it's that whole reminder, like, life is short. I know that's cliche to say, but it is, right? So I want to utilize my God-given gifts and talents to their fullest every day. That's a huge driver. And the other is that I want to show my kids what's possible in this world. And so if they want to start a business, start a business. If my son wants to play in the NHL, go play in the NHL. If my girls want to play for USA Volleyball and they'll be these unbelievable CEOs and entrepreneurs and mothers, like whatever they want to be, like you can make that happen. It's through effort, it's through an attitude, it's through surrounding yourself with the right people, it's working on yourself, on your mindset every single day, it's taking care of your body, it's all these elements. I want to be the example of that. So even getting back to that why for me is huge because it grounds me and it fires me up. I get so excited. Like when I think about even just saying it now, like I'm so fired up to be like, okay, let's go. Like let's go accomplish amazing things and do this and make that vision happen. And let's see what's possible in this world. I love it. The why is huge. You have to have that driver to get you out of bed in the morning. It is huge, and again, it's contagious. I can feel the excitement. It's so cool. So what gets you fired up? Oh man, I love having these conversations. I love like getting to really showcase what's great about people. So when I do my research on a guest, like I kind of fall in love with my guests a little bit because I get to see what's so great about them, what are they up to, and there's usually a moment or like a concept or something that'll stick out and that like clicks. And I'm like, wow, this is my kind of guy. I can't wait to share this with other people. Yes. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So Matt, before I ask my last question, where should people look for you online if they want to know more about what you're up to? Yeah, please go to my website. It's www.proathleteadvantage.com. You can see kind of all the things I do from a pro athlete perspective to the corporate clients that I work with. Given my kind of corporate background and having worked in the corporate world here in the United States, over in Europe for over 15 years, I just have a huge passion for going into companies and helping them build these high-performing teams, right? And the way I teach them to build high-performing teams is through everything that happens in between the ears, through kind of keynotes and workshops and mastermind groups and one-on-one coaching with executives and all that. So I'd love for people to go to proathleteadvantage.com, check it out, and I love it. Just like you, I love connecting with people, and because it's all about how do we get in there and help you get to the level that you want to get to. And that's what I'm all about. Great. We'll put a link to your website down in the show notes for everybody to check out. Thank you. And that segues really well into my last question. Without giving away all of your training, what can a leader do to create a team culture that has more mental toughness? So the foundation has to be you as the leader. Your first priority has to be developing each individual, specifically their mindset and what's happening in their heads. That is foundational to everything. When I go into companies, and I've been part of big companies as well, of like they have these leadership development programs and these different trainings, and those are great and they add a ton of value. But what I've found is even if you go through a leadership development program and you have great ahas and great takeaways, as I often did in those classes and courses, I get back to my desk, and this is what happens with a lot of people. If you don't have that self-belief that you can be that type of leader, guess what you're not going to use? The tools you just utilized in that course, right? if you don't have like the focus and the discipline to make it, to implement those things, then you're going to do nothing with it. If you don't have the emotional control that when you're faced with that adversity, you're going to lose it in front of your team and kind of lose that trust, right? If you don't have the energy, like the way I've defined mental toughness, those elements, that has to be the foundation, because once you believe in yourself, once you're focused, once you're emotionally in control, once you have the energy you need to perform your best, then when you go to those leadership classes, then when you're dealing with your coworkers and counterparts and wives and husbands and partners and kids and all that stuff, that becomes exponentially more powerful. Exponentially. But you have to be willing to dig into those fears, doubts, limiting beliefs, building those elements of kind of that strong mindset that I talked about. It opens up everything. Everything. So if every leader in America carved out time where not only they worked on themselves and their mindset, but then forced in a positive way, like HR jiving way, right? But kind of encouraged their team to also invest in themselves, I can't describe the growth. It's massive, massive. You want to reach those financial goals, strategic goals, project goals, marriage goals, like every goal in your life. It starts with you developing your mindset and taking care of yourself, and everything goes from there.
Great stuff. Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
It was a blast, absolute blast. Thanks for having me.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for checking out this episode with Matt Phillips. If you want to help me get more great guests like Matt on the show, then be sure to interact with this. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, leave a review. That's a huge help, and I'll catch you next time.